Hello and welcome to a slightly later News at 7 tonight, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. This evening, changes are announced to the winter fuel payment in England and Wales, but what might it mean for Scotland?
What are you saying to pensioners? Don't save for your future, because you're going to be better off if you don't have a works pension, because that's my fear.
We'll hear from the charity Age Scotland about the significance for pensioners here. Also tonight, the residents given 2 hours notice to leave their homes after the potentially deadly concrete RAAC was found.
The longer it goes on, the bigger it impacts your mental health, the bigger its impact on people financially.
And calls for more blood donors across Scotland after a drop in the number regularly giving blood. And the Seabed restoration project off Arran giving hope for oceans around the world. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. Let's start tonight by looking at the latest around winter fuel payments. The UK government has announced changes which would make more than 75% of pensioners in England and Wales eligible for the winter fuel payment. It's ultimately a U-turn. In July last year, they announced the payment would be limited to people on means-tested benefits. The Scottish government had already announced a devolved benefit. Pensioners Peter and Flo Fanning took the UK and Scottish governments to court over the original decision. Our reporter Katrina Renton asked Peter how he felt.
I think we feel vindicated about actually going, because I think there was a thought from, or possibly a thought from Westminster in particular, that pensioners are something that will just roll over and lie down and accept and whatever. There's also got to be consequences for decisions that governments make, and we have to hold our governments to task about the decisions they make without actually seeing how it affects people. Pensioners are a force to be reckoned with. You can't mess with them.
Well, the changes for pensioners in England and Wales means those who earn under £35,000 a year will get at least £200. As things stand in Scotland, everyone will receive a minimum of £100 this winter. The Scottish Government said they'd been left in the dark about today's decision and weren't consulted. So, what might happen now? Well, let's ask Adam Stahura from the charity Age Scotland. Good evening to you.
Evening.
Was this a bit of a surprise to you as well today?
I think this has been trailed by number 10, the Treasury, for a few weeks. It's not an exact surprise, but I think the level upon which they've decided to do something for England and Wales is quite generous, considering how quickly they removed everything from almost everybody this time last year. Scotland is in a slightly better position that we've got a system that's set up for older people to have a payment this winter, but this is actually quite big news for Scotland too. There could be considerable amount of money coming to Scotland, and that needs to be sort of ring-fenced by the Scottish Government to put more in the pockets of the pensioners who really need it.
So what are you hoping then happens from that uplift, as you've just referred to, given that the Scottish Government had already announced some form of help for pensioners, albeit on different scales?
Well, they've already budgeted for £100 for every pensioner household, and there'll still be £200 or £300 for everyone on pension credit. But this new money, judging by our analysis, would allow the Scottish Government to put at least £100 more in every household's payment. So for every household in Scotland who's got a pensioner in it, there could be £200, potentially £300 if they're over 80, and for those in pension credit could actually benefit to between £300 or £400. And there's still room to play. If there's about £120 million more comes to Scotland, the Scottish Government have a really great opportunity here to make sure older people living in the coldest homes in the coldest part of the country can weather our cold winters.
Are you hoping then it will be focused more towards those who really can't afford this cut? Because there will be pensioners who can afford to take the cut in winter fuel payment, and many won't.
I think it's going to be a difficult job for the Scottish Government before this winter to come up with a brand new system. They've accepted that universality is necessary for these kind of payments right now. So I think for this first winter, put more in everyone's pockets. And in the future, you might want to look at how you can restrict that further. But actually this year, you can make the opt-out stronger for people. People don't have to take this, but it's very kind of unheard of for people to refuse it. I think 2 years ago, only a dozen people in Scotland actually sent it back or turned it down. So I think people who don't need it could refuse it, could send it back, but the Scottish Government needs to do a pretty good job at letting people know what their options are.
We just heard there about pensioner power. I mean, are you feeling more optimistic now about the coming autumn and winter maybe than you were last week?
I mean, look, every autumn and winter in the last few years has been really, really difficult for older people, but actually households across the country have really struggled. But we've got to remember that huge numbers of people in our population are older, and we've got an ageing population. I think it's absolutely necessary for governments to do more for older people because there's not too much to show for it. They're often left behind and excluded from these types of decisions. I'm really glad that there's some movement for the future, and I really hope the Scottish Government take this opportunity to do the right thing for much more people.
OK, well, Adam, we're grateful for you coming in tonight to give us some reaction to that. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Now, almost 2 years ago, the residents of 27 properties in the town of Tillicoultry were forced from their homes after the discovery of a potentially dangerous form of concrete known as RAAC. They haven't been able to return since, and today the tenants and homeowners took their concerns to Clackmannanshire Council, demanding a solution. Among them, Lindsay, who says the ordeal has taken a toll on everyone affected.
It's been horrendous. We've all went through different stages on this journey. The longer it goes on, the bigger it impacts your mental health, the bigger it's impacting people financially. There's some homeowners that are living in council houses and paying a mortgage at the same time, so they're paying for 2 houses at one time, which is causing a big major impact to them. I think everybody's passed the buck. I don't think there's been any government or council that are really sitting up listening to us. And if they did, they wouldn't have disrespected people's homes the way they have. I'm not saying that they could maybe go a bit faster because they've got policies to follow as well. But I do still think they need to take into consideration on the impact it is causing us all. The longer it goes on, the more you're spiralling into a bit of depression.
Well, Lindsay's community is among several in Scotland facing a similar weight, and Scotland's Housing Minister Paul McLennan says a UK-wide strategy is required. He's been speaking to our reporter Louise Cowie.
We will continue to push the UK Government to set up the RAAC fund. The Welsh Parliament obviously have discovered RAAC as well and are engaging with groups down in Wales. So it is a UK problem, and we're encouraging the UK Government to set up a UK RAAC fund to deal with that. But we'll continue to liaise with local authorities as best we can on that particular fund.
Thank you for joining us on tonight's News at 7. More to come in the programme, including how a 6-week bus strike will affect people living in parts of the west of Scotland.
It's a much drier, brighter and warmer day tomorrow, and temperatures increase further on Wednesday. I'll have a full forecast later in the programme.
Now, Aberdeenshire Council has agreed to pause the mothballing of 4 rural nurseries. Parents were told in April that Ballogie, Crossroads, Glass and Sandhaven nurseries would close at the end of term. But today, councillors agreed to put decisions on hold to review its guidance around consulting with families. Rachel Bell reports.
When the move to mothball these nurseries was announced back in April, there was huge backlash from the local communities, and since then families have been campaigning to keep their nurseries open, saying that they weren't consulted. And then on Friday the council announced that it wanted to pause these controversial plans. That followed a letter from the Scottish Government to the local authority reminding them of the statutory guidance around mothballing and the need to keep parents involved. Well, today there were heated scenes in the council chamber when the administration decided not to allow members of the public to speak. They did, however, decide to pause the mothballing to allow the guidance to be reviewed.
I'm nervous that they are actually going to move forward with integrity. I feel like they're trying to control the narrative now, and we just need to make sure that we're protecting our nurseries and our rural communities as best as we can. So whilst it is a good thing that they have decided to pause the mothballings, I don't have a huge amount of confidence in them as an institution to do the right thing.
The council says it's about balancing the needs of children and families with a difficult financial position, but it's critical that that's done in the right way. Although today's decision has put a pause on mothballing, it doesn't reduce the risk of this happening in the future. Rachel Bell, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
Right, let's get around it now. The stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. And family of teenager Cole Cooper say their worst fears have become a reality. Police found a body in a wooded area near Cole's home village of Banknock on Friday. Police are investigating whether 2 vehicles set alight in Edinburgh are linked to an ongoing gangland feud. So far, 42 arrests have been made. Police say they're treating both fires as suspicious. The Ministry of Defence has been consulted over plans to build 250 new homes in Easter Ross near a weapons range. Highland Council officials have recommended the development for approval. And for more on all of these stories, scan the QR code there for you on the screen now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app. There's more there for you, including the launch of a legal challenge on the Isle of Mull over the local authority's decision on where to build a new school. Now, stagecoach bus drivers in the west of Scotland have gone on strike over an ongoing pay dispute. More than 400 drivers at depots in Ayr, Arran, Ardrossan and Kilmarnock won't return to work until the 21st of July. There will be a limited service during that time. So, what impact is it likely to have on people who rely on buses? Well, Jamie McIver's been finding out.
The social club is usually bustling. It's a lifeline for some pensioners in Kilmarnock, but today it was quieter than normal. Some couldn't make it because their bus wasn't running.
This is normally one of our busiest days. We have a free bingo today, and we normally have about 28 to 30 people in. But this is how the bus strikes affect us. People just can't manage it.
And some who did make it were concerned for those stuck at home.
This is once a week, and it's a highlight for a lot of these people when they get together and just sit and play dominoes or whatever, but they're communicating, they're socialising, and that's just taken away from people.
Outside the bus station, another protest. These drivers could be off work for 6 weeks. Their union says Stagecoach is offering 4% with strings. Stagecoach says their offer is fair and argues drivers would be earning almost £30,000 a year within months. The effect of the bus strike is being felt here in Kilmarnock and around Ayrshire and Arran. The worst effect is likely to be on those who rely on the buses, people who don't have cars. Kerry Brown travels from Kilmarnock to nearby Stewarton every day for work.
It's costing me money. I've paid out £88 for a bus ticket for the month, and now, because there's no buses, I'm going to have to fork out for a train to get me to and from work, which I can't afford.
And effectively you're paying twice?
Yeah.
Back at the social club, they're just hoping for a resolution soon. Tonight that prospect still seems far off. There's no sign of any progress towards a settlement. Jamie McIver, reporting Scotland, Ayrshire.
Now, blood donations save and improve lives every day. And today marks the start of Blood Donor Week, and appeals being made for more donors to come forward, particularly younger Scots. One person who knows about the importance of blood availability is Arran from Perth, whose daughter Ailsa was born prematurely and required 2 transfusions.
They sent me through to Ninewells Hospital in Dundee, where very quickly I was seen by a doctor, and then a decision was made that really the baby had to be delivered there and then via emergency C-section. When my daughter was born, she was floppy and pale, and she had to be resuscitated and given a blood transfusion. And then she was taken to NICU, where she needed a second blood transfusion. I'd love to thank everybody who has ever donated blood, and to those who are thinking about it, I would really urge them to do so, because it was something that, to be honest, I always thought of as just it's a good thing to do. It's a morally good thing to do. But now, having been on the receiving end via my daughter, I see it as a need, and we need this in our community. She would not be here without it.
Well, there are currently 95,000 active donors in Scotland, and the National Blood Transfusion Service wants to get that number up to 105,000. Debbie McNaughton is the Associate Director of the service, and earlier she explained the current shortage.
I mean, we're really thankful for all the donors that we have, but what we are seeing is that around 55% of our donor base is now aged 45 and over, and we're really keen to be welcoming 17 to 24-year-old donors so that we can get more blood donors.
And how do you hope to go about doing that? And why do you think maybe fewer young people are giving blood?
So I think we're struggling to get back to our pre-COVID donor levels. And I think that's because, we didn't do school sessions, we didn't do university sessions, all the learning was done online. And I think, the younger people just don't necessarily think about it unless there's been some impact in their life. So I think it's really important. We have looked at our collection strategy. We have put in more community sessions. We have 5 fixed donor centres which are open, with numerous appointments every day in the week. And we have got a very robust now school and university programme, and that's why we're hoping, to encourage more young people to realise that it's really important to take the time and what the benefits of, becoming a blood donor are.
Talk us through that impact. We've spoken today to Ailey and heard about baby Ailsa and just what a difference blood donation made to their lives, and they're just one of many stories.
Absolutely. So every unit that is given, has the potential to save 3 lives because the red cells can be used, the plasma can be used, and the platelets can be used. And I think it's important to recognise it's not just the patient that's, benefiting from it. It's their friends, their family, their colleagues. So, by giving up that half an hour to come and donate blood, has huge impact, and brings lots of hope and joy to a lot of people.
Anybody watching tonight who's maybe thinking, I would like to do this, how can they go about that? And what are the limitations on giving, Debbie, as well, for example, around tattoos and piercings? Do you want to just clarify that for people?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is go to our website, which is scottblood.co.uk, and on there you'll be able to see the criteria and any restrictions on giving blood. We ask you to register as a blood donor, go through the pre-health check, and then make your appointment. We also have a clinical support team that people can phone to ask further questions, or they can email. And even if they can't donate on that occasion, they can become a blood donor, and we can get back in touch with them once the deferral ends and get them in to donate.
Debbie McNaughton there. Still to come, we've got the weather with Christopher and the Ocean Project in Arran, which is making waves across the world. But first, reasons to be happy in sport tonight with Lewis.
That's right, Laura. Good evening there. The Scottish football season has ended with a comfortable victory for the men's national team in an away friendly against Liechtenstein, the final match before Steve Clarke's side begin their World Cup qualifying campaign in September.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a difficult game. Conditions weren't great, but it was very professional and our mentality was spot on. It's important to sign off this year with a win, and we're happy we've done that for the fans because it means so much to them and us. So happy we put things right from the game against Iceland.
It's always easier once you get that early goal. Pitch is dry, we know what they're like, but we get that early goal and it kind of calms everybody down. And we played some nice stuff out there and scored some really good goals as well.
Well, such a composed young man, Lennon Miller, and joining me now is a Scotland player with plenty more international experience than young Lennon Miller. Lyndon Dykes, thank you for joining us on the programme tonight. We'll start with Lennon Miller then, at just 18 years of age. How impressed were you with him tonight?
Yeah, really impressed. Obviously the other night, Iceland, he came off the bench and he deserved to start tonight because he came on there with a lot of composure, and you could see that he's had a lot of experience and a lot of confidence from his good season at Motherwell. And then tonight he showed again how good he was, and it was a great performance from him to come against a lesser maybe team that we should win, but for him coming in for his first start, it's always a great start for him.
Absolutely. I want to ask you about this man, Steve Clarke. He spoke after the game. He said that there was maybe a bit of hurt in that dressing room. You've been in a dressing room and maybe there have been some doubters, maybe bad runs of form in years gone by, and the team have always seemed to answer those critics. What does that hurt do for a dressing room, Lyndon, when you want to go out there and prove the doubters wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think these 2 games were massive for us, obviously, for momentum. The first game didn't go the way the boys wanted it, especially the manager didn't want that. But that's when they had to turn up tonight, and they done that. Obviously, it was 2 games everyone expected us to win. It didn't go right, but we turned up and made sure we get the momentum going into the big games coming up in September.
You're a striker, Lyndon. I need to talk to you about your strike partner, Shay Adams, tonight. Selfishly, how do you feel the fact he's gone tied with you on 9 international goals?
No, it's always good. Obviously, you know, I wanted to be out there playing. We're buzzing with that, and he's had a great little season as well.
He certainly will. And as you say, the result was huge. Shay Adams' performance will definitely go some way to making fans feel a little bit better, because when you look at the performance against Iceland, we didn't look like we offered much up front. As a striker, how eager are you to get back to full fitness after recovering from injury, to get back into this Scotland squad?
Yeah, I mean, I love playing for my country. I want to play every time I can. Obviously, I'm fully fit now, so hopefully get a great pre-season coming into this new season. And then we've got big games coming up, so hopefully I'm involved and back to the last World Cup, and hopefully score a few more goals in the World Cup qualifying coming up.
That would be nice. Well, Lyndon, thank you so much for joining us in the programme tonight. We appreciate your time and good luck with the recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, to some rugby now, and there is some disappointment for Glasgow Warriors and Scotland prop Xander Fagerson, who has been ruled out of the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia this summer with a calf injury. The front row specialist was part of the Lions squad in 2021 and had been called up again by coach Andy Farrell, despite not playing since early April because of the same injury. Sadly, the 29-year-old hasn't recovered in time and will unfortunately miss out. But as always, there's plenty more sport for you over on the BBC website, including the story about the Scot who won on golf's DP World Tour at, wait for it, the 182nd time of asking. Quite brilliant stuff from Connor Syme. And a shout out to Dumfries and County Golf Club. That's where he honed his craft. That's where I honed something. Not quite that level.
And he got there in the end.
He did.
Thanks, Lewis. Next tonight, the UN Oceans Conference is happening this week in Nice, and it's aimed at improving protection of our seas. But one project in Scotland is being hailed as a shining example of seabed restoration. Just 1 square mile of Lamlash Bay off Arran was closed to all forms of fishing back in 2008, and it's quickly seen marine life recover. The story features in Sir David Attenborough's Ocean film. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane has been to Arran to meet the 2 divers behind this scheme.
I started diving in 1974, yeah, I mean, when you start diving and you've not seen something before, you just take that as, well, that's what it was like. We would see lots of flatfish, we'd see all kinds of species that we had no idea what they were called. But yeah, looking back, it was pretty fantastic.
And how did that start to change, Don?
We started noticing that species were no longer being there, but because we were part of the first divers that actually went down to the seabed round about Arran, we started to see the damage that was being caused and realised that unless we can bring up these images to show people what damage is being done, people wouldn't understand exactly why. So that's what we started doing.
So I guess at this time you'd identified what the problem was.
Yeah.
Now we know what the solution is because we've seen it here. But what was the evolution of discovering that?
It seemed to us to such a simple solution. Let's have a small area of seabed, let's exclude scallop dredging and other fishing or whatever, and then just see what happens.
And what did happen?
Well, it was beyond our wildest expectations. The last dive that we did on it, I just couldn't believe the regeneration that had happened.
The spread out of seed, spat from the no-take zone repopulates the marine protected area, which benefits both scallop diving and creoline.
Don, you've obviously recently taken part in this David Attenborough Oceans documentary. How important do you think that film is in kind of opening up this wider conversation about protecting our seabeds and actually the importance of what is there below the sea surface?
I think the movie is absolutely crucial. Once you've seen something, you can't unsee it. And basically my very small part in it was to offer up a witness statement as to what I had seen before and after scallop dredging.
What is your hope of the impact that this film will have?
Just that people start taking personal responsibility and that we allow small pockets of nature to carry on reproducing to seed the rest of it, so that for future generations they have the same thing that we had when we started diving.
Howard Wood and David McNeish there speaking to our environment correspondent Kevin Keane. Right, weather time now, and it's been pretty wild today, Chris.
Miserable, actually.
Really miserable.
Miserable
Cold,
Monday.
grey, wet, very Monday.
It's warming up though. It's brightening up as well, but there will be some heavy downpours probably at the end of the week. But let's take a look at some pictures. Once again, our weather watchers have been supplying us with some lovely scenes across the country, despite the leaden skies there at Gurrock. And well, a lovely beachside picture there from Nairn, but still rather cloudy and grey. And it's a similar picture there in St Andrews, but a bit more sunshine on the way tomorrow. Here's what's happening over the next few days, because we've had low pressure nearby, but tomorrow this little ridge of high pressure will afford us something drier and brighter. But you can see low pressure is nearby, and then we start to develop that southerly drift as well, increasing the temperature, increasing the humidity, and some heavy downpours too. But first thing tomorrow, actually a far brighter picture compared with this morning. 1 or 2 light showers around, temperatures 9 to 11 Celsius. Winds coming in from the northwest, but it shouldn't feel too bad at all, really. So it's a lovely day, certainly compared with today, with increasing amounts of sunshine as we head through towards the afternoon. So this is Tuesday morning towards Tuesday lunchtime. Those showers tending to fizzle and fade away, and then it's dry with some sunshine and temperatures close to average for the time of year, 16 to 18 degrees. Midweek, we've got now a southerly wind bringing in some warm and increasingly humid air from the south. Initially it's cloudy, certainly around the west coast, patchy rain in the north, but sunshine developing into the afternoon and the temperatures responding up to around 22 degrees and it's going to feel quite pleasant, but it will be quite humid. And then on Thursday, we've got some heavy downpours focused in the west. In the east, it's a little bit cooler and drier. Temperatures, though, for many still around about the 20 Celsius mark. And beyond that, we hold on to that humidity on Friday, and low pressure is sticking with us through the weekend. It turns fresher through Saturday and Sunday, but it still remains wet. So this is Friday. You can see we've got that southerly drift introducing that increasingly humid air. A lot of cloud around, a few showers, but temperatures on the up, probably the warmest day of the week. And then, as I mentioned, fresher through the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but the rain not too far away at all, so it will be rather soggy at times. This is the outlook. You can see whilst tomorrow is reasonable, as we head through the week, temperatures climb, as does humidity, and the rain arrives. That's the forecast.
OK, we'll take warm rain over cold rain and gales any day of the week. Thank you, Chris. And thank you so much for joining us as always tonight. We will see you tomorrow night at 7. Bye-bye from all of us.